Hello. This week in WordPress episode 4,603. It's not really, it's episode 206. We're not that good. Very nice to have you with us. If you're joining us live, that's really, really lovely. If you're listening to this a day afterwards on the podcast, nice to have you along as well. If you didn't know, we do it live. These are not AI. These three fine people that are joining me today are real. Well, I presume that I've never actually met them in person, but hopefully one day I'll meet them in person. I heard some interesting news about AI this week, and it is quite plausible fairly soon that you could be AI, but enough of that. Let's discover who's on the show today. First off, a regular co-host, Taco. How are you doing?
I'm all good, except for a computer that caused a bit of stress just now, but we're here.
What happened? Tell us. Did you did the reboot? Yeah.
Yes, so I think a minute before I was supposed to join, my computer just completely stalled, and I had the option to reboot or just reboot. And then it decided to install all the updates.
Yeah, of course.
So it took 2 minutes longer than it should have. Yeah, and that's a long 2 minutes.
Yeah, especially if you've got something to do. I know this feeling. It's always at the most crucial moment. Well, anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us once again. I'm glad that you managed to get in under the wire. Nobody knew, Taco. If you'd have said nothing, nobody would have known.
True.
It's very honest of you.
Yeah.
We're also joined for the very first time by Rachel Winchester from Digital Cube. Hello, Rachel. Rachel, I think, is muted. If Rachel's not muted, I can't hear her. Can anybody else hear Rachel, or is it just me?
Nope.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Rachel, which is odd because just moments ago I could. Rachel, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce our other guest, Jack, whilst you have a quick fiddle around and see if there's any setting or any wire that got dislodged. If not, you might have to do a Taco reboot, and we'll see you in half an hour. There she's gone. She's gone to reboot. We'll see her on the other side. Let's put her back in. There we go. Let's hope we can hear her now. But whilst we figure that out.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. All right. Well,
Great.
Jack, I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait. Rachel's back. How are you doing, Rachel? Nice to have you with us.
I'm good. It's
Where
bright
are
and
you
early
exactly
here.
at the moment? Yeah,
It's
where are
bright
you?
and early here in Philadelphia.
Okay. I always have to apologize to our North American guests because it always is stupid o'clock. I'm going to do the proper introduction. Rachel Winchester, or Win, she's a product designer focused on elevating the arts and cultural industries. She works full-time as a UX product designer at Digital Cube, as you can see on the screen, focusing on their WordPress products, client websites, and other initiatives for their users and communities. Additionally, as a freelancer, she works one-to-one with entrepreneurs and small businesses to help them realize their goals and solve their problems. She's very active in the WordPress community, organizing the Philly meetup and the New Jersey meetup groups, as well as an organizer for this summer's WordCamp Montclair. I have to confess, I've not heard of Montclair. Can you tell, is that close to Philly or is that a bit further away?
It is a New York City suburb. Yeah, so we're expecting some of the New York audience to come to Montclair, but it's in North Jersey. Maybe like a 15-minute drive from Newark, if you know where that is. So the Montclair meetup, in-person meetup, joined forces with all of the other Jersey meetups for COVID. So there's this mega meetup called the Jersey Press Meetup, and that's virtual. And most of the Jersey Press Meetup organizers are also organizers for WordCamp Montclair. So it really feels like all of New Jersey's WordCamp.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. You do a lot, by the way. Taco was giving you a bit of a round of applause. I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, well done. That's a boatload of stuff. I appreciate all of your efforts. Let's see if Jack's equipment is working. He put in the show notes that he wasn't quite sure if he could see us. Can you see us and hear us?
Everything's now. Yeah,
he's all right. Yeah, Jack has the rare quality that he's from the UK. Nobody apart from me is ever from the UK on this show anymore. Not since we lost Paul Lacey. But Jack has a very short and simple biography. I'll read it out and then we'll find out a little bit more. Jack's biography is 4 words. It says, product manager at LearnDash. Tell us a bit about that, Jack. What's LearnDash? We all know, right? But tell us anyway.
Yeah, Dash is the most popular LMS system for WordPress, and one of the very few that constantly ranks in Capterra's top LMS systems, regardless of being for WordPress.
Nice.
My day-to-day, I manage our engineering team, which is always fun and interesting. And I think most of the recent hires have all been my own friends. So I get to
Well,
work with friends each day. Luckily, we're not in an office because we'd mostly all just sit there throwing plastic darts at each other's heads or having water gun battles.
well, when the CEO's away, Taco can tell us more about that in a minute. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have this. Taco, forgive me. It's very nice to have the two new people. That's always really nice. And obviously, Taco, it's an absolute pleasure to have you along as well. Just a couple of captions to throw at you. If you want to go and share this with your friends, yeah, we have a fair few people coming live. It's mainly about recording the audio for tomorrow's podcast. But if you do want to share this, stop what you're doing. Put it down, and go to wpbuilds.com/live. Then copy and paste that and send it off to Twitter or to Mastodon or to Facebook or wherever you send things off to. Go and share it, and let's see if we can swell the numbers. If you're joining us and you want to comment, that would be lovely. We try to get as many of those comments on the screen as we can. If you're going to the WP Builds page, which is wpbuilds.com/live, you need to be logged into Google because it's YouTube comments. If you're in the Facebook group, you need to give us a bit of permission. Otherwise, we don't know who you are. We just get a blank, the generic avatar, which looks very boring, and we don't get your name. If you want to amend that and let us know who you are, you have to go to this highly memorable URL, chat.restream.io/FB. Yep. You heard it here first, chat.restream.io/FB. You'll be saying that to yourself all night. And if you put that URL in, they'll say, can we have your avatar? Can we have your name? And personally, I decline, but don't tell anybody that. We're going to carry on with the show, and we're going to talk about WordPressy things. Just a couple of things first. Let's say hello to some people who've made the effort to show up. Hello, Max. Nice to have you with us. Rob Cairns joining us as he always does. I'm gonna start referring to Rob as Reliable Rob because he's always here on time every single week, and I really do appreciate him. If you don't know, Rob Cairns has got his own fine podcast, and you can go and Google that a bit later. Right, let's get stuck into it. Let me share my screen. This is us. Ooh, let me hide that. This is us, wpbuilds.com. There's our website. Go and explore things. Click buttons, go to links, subscribe to things. That's my pitch. The next thing to mention is we've got a show this week with the lovely Pete Neri. We're going live. Oh, my goodness, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. No, it's not. It's 3 p.m. UK time. Peacher is a UI UX guru. She would probably hate me saying that, but there she is. And she's going to dissect a couple of user-generated websites. People have been sending things in that they would like her to have a look at. So if you fancy doing that, you can go to this page and sign up, and then we will keep you updated and hopefully get your stuff on the show. And we'll be live right here in 25 hours' time. If you like the darker side of the internet, they used to call them dark patterns. Now they've renamed it. It's now called deceptive design, apparently. You know those little things where the continue button is sort of made all green and lovely and the skip is grayed out so that you have to, you know what I'm talking about. That's called deceptive design. And we're after examples of that so that we can name and shame people. So feel free to go to wpbuilds.com/UI, fill out that form, and hopefully we'll air some of the content that you've created. Right, enough of me droning on. Let's get stuck into WordPressy stuff. We have a new version of WordPress in beta. As you can see on the screen, it's WordPress 6.0 beta. I don't know how you say it. I say beta because I'm from the UK. What do you say, Jack?
I would say it the same as you, but I now say it the American way because everyone always used to laugh at me.
Yeah. There's loads of words like that. I've sort of given up saying it the British English way, and I say it that way. Anyway, here we go. Beta 2. I have nothing really to add. Just if you're into contributing to WordPress, now is the moment. If you want to help WordPress's future, there are 209 tickets in WordPress 6. There's 110 new features and enhancements. There's things around the block editor, the patterns REST API, there's no news here except that there's a new beta 2. And if you want to go and help, go and read the post. I will put it into the show notes. So we'll just quickly move on. Sorry, everybody. We're just going to crack on. Anne McCarthy, who is the most busy person on earth, as far as I'm concerned. Honestly, where is Anne not in the WordPress space? If you open up any article, Anne is being mentioned. She's looking for help. And there's a great laundry list of things that she needs help with. She's trying to improve the accessibility of WordPress 6.0. And the post is over at make.wordpress.org, and I'll link to it in the show notes. And if you're looking at the screen, it's just called WordPress 6.0 Accessibility Improvements. And there's a laundry list of general improvements. Look at that. On the screen, there's probably about 20 things which they need help with, maybe more like 30. There's things which need helping out with the navigation blocks in general. The list view needs a bit of makeover. The media, the quick bulk edit feature, the login registration themed. Basically, if there's sounds like every bit of WordPress needs a bit of accessibility work, and she needs some help. So go to that piece. And I was wondering, Jack, and I was wondering, Taco, how much effort you guys put into accessibility these days in terms of Yoast, the plugin, and LearnDash, the plugin. Are you there yet? Are you like 100%, or are you more on the journey towards?
I'm not sure 100% is achievable. I think there's always room for improvement. There's always more that we can do to make sure that everyone can use the product. But yeah, Andrea Fercia is on our team. He's an Italian accessibility expert and also doing a lot for WordPress core and accessibility. And let's just say that just his presence makes all our developers think about accessibility all the time, because everyone knows that he'll get mad at you for nothing.
That's what you
He's
need.
a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's super important. And I mean, SEO for everyone means SEO for everyone, and not SEO for everyone who can use a mouse and a keyboard.
Nice. Good answer, Taco. It's almost like you'd rehearsed that. That was brilliant. Jack?
We're definitely on the journey at LearnDash. It's been a big focus of ours. Maybe a little hint is that we're completely redoing the template set so they can be accessible. Part of our struggle at LearnDash is in the essence that the theme also impacts accessibility. You need the theme to be accessible because the content's going on the page. So there's still aspects where you can be as accessible as you can be, and then the theme just ruins it for your product. So we have some themes that we recommend, and we know we work with good people. Cadence, for instance, they work a lot on accessibility stuff, which are also part of Stellar WP. And it's really something that we want to do. Yoast have been great themselves. I've had a lot of feedback directly from Yoast on accessibility stuff that they passed over that we're working on. And yeah, I can't wait to show everyone what we've been working on, because it takes a long time to do accessibility. It's not quick, it's not easy, but it's an area that we want to invest in, and it is an area that we are investing in, because everyone should be able to learn online regardless of their requirements.
Another well-formulated answer. I don't know what's happening on this show today. It's 2 so far. Let's see if the third one. Let's see if Rachel can keep up the spirit. Rachel, as a person who's into UI and UX and building client websites, has this become a more of a feature of your builds over the last? Because it feels to me as if it's a big talking point now, and it has been for the last 24, 48 months. Just going to throw this one at you. Yeah.
Accessibility is huge. I mean, as a user experience designer, our users are people, real people of all types. Our users are also sometimes robots. When I think about SEO and how I have to design for robots as well, but they're mostly people. So with my freelance stuff and with the work at Digital Cube, I think about accessibility just as I think about all of our normal users.
Do you have it as part of the process right from the start when you're building a website, or is it the kind of thing that you tackle let's say 70, 80% in. So you've done the design, you've laid things out, you've got your fonts and color palette and all of that sorted, and you're basically nearly there. And do you then concentrate, or are you doing it all from the get-go?
Well, I mostly focus on the UX part and the research part. So I keep it in mind when I do that work. And I work with another designer, who is also a lot more aware of accessibility issues. But all of our work goes to an accessibility specialist consultant afterwards. So we don't work like hand in hand with him as we're making the designs, but we have to be aware of some of those best practices. And then afterwards, it'll be checked by a specialist.
It kind of feels to me that our ecosystem has matured so much, and maybe just the internet in general, that so there's Taco, and you've got a whole industry of people who just do SEO. Look, there's the SEO guy. Obviously, you're employing an accessibility person. I don't know if that Taco is their only role, but they've got that hat. And but then we've also got like the learning management system ecosystem. We've got and it feels to me like you could actually make a career these days in being an SEO, being a LMS person, or being, I pointed the wrong way there, or being an accessibility person. I know in the UK there's quite a few people who are having that as a little bit of a niche for themselves. They are an accessibility guru, if you like, a nerd, and they go out and they go to WordCamps and they teach people the tools to use, the legislation which needs updating, and the things that you've got to do. So how is it that a tiny sliver of the internet, WordPress, can have its own tiny little slivers, SEO, accessibility, whatever it might be, and they're all viable careers? It speaks to a giant ecosystem. I'm just going to put Anne's piece back up. So she really does, by the looks of it, need an awful lot of help. If you can see this on the screen, apologies if you're listening to the audio of this, but there are absolutely loads of things which need addressing. I'll just read a few out to give you a gist of some of the things. Under general, we've use the post title as the featured image alt text when linked to the post. That needs looking at. Ensure that blocks with a placeholder setup have their description read by voiceover. That needs looking at. The navigation block is identifiable with ARIA label using the menu name field. You get the idea. We're into the nitty gritty, the weeds of what needs fixing. And if you're at all into accessibility, then this really would be, I think, a great place for you to spend a bit of your time. It's on make.wordpress.org, and it will be in the show notes. All right.
Yeah, and I would even argue, Nathan, that if you're not into accessibility, but you are a developer,
Good point.
definitely do dive in, because of course you'll learn a ton, because you'll be working with Anne, but also because it helps you in your future projects, in your future builds as a developer, to think about more of these sometimes really small issues, things that you can fix in 5 minutes, but next time you prevent them from needing fixing because you know that it will be a problem later on.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And that was, I think I misspoke, and you corrected me there. Thank you. That was the right way of phrasing it. Even if you're not particularly into accessibility, yeah, go and check it out. Again, check the link in the show notes, but it's on make.wordpress.org. Just go and look up Anne. She is Anne Zazu, ANNEZAZU, and she's everywhere. I suspect if you go out shopping, Anne will be there. It's quite likely that she's, she'll be doing the till, she'll be packing the shelves, she'll be helping with everything. She's everywhere. So is Michelle Frechette, who's joining us. Hello, Michelle. Very nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today. That's really nice. And hello, Elliot. Elliot's down the road from me, and he's become a regular. Elliot, we should really go for a beer. Like we're 10 minutes drive away. It'd be nice to meet up with you in person. Okie dokie, let's move on. This is a section we've never done before, I don't think. And there's 3 people who are leaving the WordPress space. So it's with a tear in our collective eyes that we talk about these 3 fine people. We'll just go collectively through them, I think, and talk about what they've meant to us, if indeed they've meant anything. Some of them may be less famous for you, but 2 of them I know, Taco, you're very intimately connected with. So the first one is Chris Lemma. Chris Lemma is, well, who hasn't heard of Chris Lemma? Frankly, he's one of those guys that seems to be in all places, a bit like Anne. He's written a lot of helpful tutorials for people over the years. He's decided, as he says in this post, he's decided to move on because it would appear that in all the time that he's been working with WordPress, he's kind of led a bit of a double life, which I didn't know about. He's worked. He's been working in the background, I imagine at the weekends and things like that, in ministry, in churches. And although I don't really know the full story and he doesn't flesh it out in great detail, it would appear that he's been offered an opportunity in that arena that he feels he can't really pass up. He's been helping out. I mean, I'm guessing, Jack, that you know Chris pretty well. Is he your boss? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, he was.
Is he? Oh, great. Well, you can spill the beans then. He's moving on. It looks like to carry on that side of his life. You know, maybe time has come. I don't really know. Is there anything there, Jack? Anything that that didn't make it into this article that's public knowledge that'd be nice to know?
No, I don't think so. I think just the main thing to know is that Chris is a great leader. He was an amazing boss. It wasn't a very long time. I think it was 6 months after Liquid Web acquired Lindash that Chris was my boss for. From acquisition, he oversaw that and right through to this very point. But fantastic guy, very, very funny. Always has a story or 50 to tell. And yeah, just all round a great guy.
Well, I genuinely didn't know that he had that kind of pastoral side to him. I just knew him as the WordPress guy.
I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I don't think many of us had a clue. We all read it and we was, wait, Chris like has this side to him. Was like
the other Chris Lemma, yeah. Which one? And I guess that's part of it, really. And he makes the point in the article that if you've ever seen him at a WordCamp, he's quite good at laying out things as a story. He's he doesn't do the here's a presentation, here's some code, let's run through the code and how it works. He's more like let's lay out a nice story for you, and he begins in that way, and then you realize that he's told you about a problem and here's how he might fix the problem. And obviously he's got that side which has been built up through many years of delivering and writing sermons, it would appear. Do you know exactly what this role is? Because he didn't make it obvious. Well, at least I didn't pick up on it anyway. I just know that he's going off to do that. It seems like he's re-met somebody from his past who offered him this position, and
yeah. I don't quite know the specifics of the role. I just know it's in the AI field in that area. But it sounded like an interesting opportunity, and it's something that Chris is very, very passionate about. So we're all pleased for him at Liquid Web. We're sad to see him go. It was a bittersweet email when our CTO sent it out to say that Chris is leaving. Obviously, all very excited for Chris, very sad for us. But we will keep annoying him in Slack. He can't escape us that easily.
I'd be really surprised if there's many people who've been around in the WordPress space for any length of time who haven't not literally bumped into him, but haven't come across his website, read an article. He was really big on kind of membership solutions and things back in the day, writing comparisons and downloading them all, buying them all, checking them all out, and writing lists with lots of charts about what it did and what it didn't do and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know if he's been doing that more recently, but that was my introduction to Chris. It was all about the membership sites, and if you Google membership sites WordPress, I'm just pretty sure that Chris's stuff will come up. Taco, you got any experience with Chris? Do you ever meet him, hang out with him?
Yes, quite a few occasions. I'm happy to say at the first YoostCon, he gave a presentation, and I think pretty much you'll be able to recognize everyone who's there. When you say hope is not a strategy, everyone will think about Chris.
Yeah.
Because the way that, like you just said, his storytelling way of presenting, oftentimes matching his t-shirt to his presentation, is definitely amazing. I've had some personal time with him at several events, just talking about WordPress and life. And I think he's very famous for the Cable Press event that you're currently scrolling into. which is happening again this year. I was trying to find it, but I can't just now. But someone was saying that Cabo Press, which is a sort of an event for entrepreneurs, um, will be even more fun now. You don't have to be afraid that Chris is going to buy your company.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it says here. It says my CarboCast conference will continue. So I don't know if that means it'll carry on because one's already organised, or if it means it's just going to keep rolling over. But you always see on Twitter that laundry list of people standing on the steps that have been to Carbo Press who've had a nice time. Yeah, thank you for sharing those thoughts, Taka. That's really nice. Rachel, do you know Chris? You ever bumped into Chris, met Chris, read Chris's stuff?
I definitely see him around Twitter, and I've seen his blog posts around. I'm kind of still new in the WordPress community. Like, I've only been doing this for maybe 3 years now. And sometimes it's hard to remember everyone that I've met.
Yeah.
I went to, what was it called? State of the Word in person last December. It was in the offices in Soho. And I might have met him there.
I have to ask, forgive me, this is really impolite. The backdrop of that event was COVID. There was a lot of talk about COVID. I hope you managed to stay safe. I hope it was all right after the fact, and you didn't, it wasn't one of those super spreader events. So not really asking you a question. I'm just saying I hope everything was all right. But thank you for sharing that as well. He says that after more than 20, I'm just going to verbatim read off the screen because I think it's quite nice. You get some context. After more than 25 years of having a tech day job and ministry orientation in the evenings and weekends, I'm shifting a role to where I bring both together in a daily way. Now, I don't know how some people manage this. So Chris writes lengthy blog posts. He runs all sorts of things over at Stellar WP, including Learn Dash. And then, just in the evenings, just sort of have a totally different thing that I'm doing. Some people, where do they get the energy? But you'll be sadly missed, Chris. I hope you keep coming back into the WordPress community. We're not done, though. We've got 2 more people well, we're not waving goodbye at all to the next one in the WordPress community. Sounds like he's going to step up the WordPress game, but it's changing focus, shall we say. And this is, it's Remkus. Remkus is often on this show. He's one of the co-hosts, like Taco is. And he's moving. He's been at ServeBolt, which is a hosting company. He's been there for the last couple of years. Sounds like they're doing really well. So it's not for those reasons that he's moving on. He just said, essentially, it's time. He says, with a heavy heart, saying goodbye to ServeBolt, its people, its products and services. They're very much aligned with many of my goals. But after a good run of over 2 years, I found myself in a position where I needed change into a direction that was more aligned with me. Where I wanted to be a whole and not just some parts. It says they've split up super amicably. And here's an insight into what he's going to be doing. He says he's going to start refocusing on his WordPress agency. I guess that must have taken a bit of a backseat. He's going to take some time off, both to reboot his Dutch site as well as his English alternative. He's going to be focusing on performance, scalability, e-commerce, and building cool stuff. He's going to rejuvenate his newsletter, and he's also going to start a podcast. Now, we're actually having a conversation tomorrow, and I'm going to tell him how to podcast, but I'm going to tell him everything incorrectly so that it's a total disaster. But don't tell him that. You never know. He might be listening to this now, and that would be his.
Probably yes.
Yeah. Let's see at the end of the call. Yeah, that would be funny. But yeah. Remkus, obviously, I think of all the 3 of us on the panel, I'm going to guess that Taco, you know him best of all. He's coming back. It looks like he stepped away from WordPress. He's coming back into WordPress, right? He was a big part of the Yoast community for years. If you've only nice things, please.
Yes, no, all the good things about Remkus. I mean, the first time I met the guy, and trust me, once you meet him in person, you never forget. Because he's like tall and
he's like that.
strong.
Yeah.
So he's really a big person and not easily missed. But he's the friendliest giant you'll ever meet. And yeah, he was organizing WordCamp Europe, the very first one. He was one of the founders of WordCamp Europe, and that's where I first met him. Um, and then when we started organizing a local WordPress meetup, he was one of the first speakers at the meetup. And yeah, I've interacted with him a lot, co-organized events, and I'm very happy to see that he is moving to a place where he can do what he really likes again. Even though I know he had the best time at Surfbolt.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really nice. Nothing. You can tell me all the bad stuff when we've clicked the stop button, and yeah.
Maybe after a few drinks at WordCamp
Yeah, yeah. He is massive. He's really. I remember seeing him at WordCamp Europe. That was the first time I ever met him, and I was stood on some stairs at the time, and he was taller than me. And every so often, me and Paul Lacey get onto, like, we use Signal to chat with each other, and we comment that, oh look, Remkus has released another video of throwing heavy objects over tall things. At the weekend, he likes to lift heavy weights and just throw them in the air. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I
Jack,
think he's actually competing in a strongman competition soon. His first one ever. But yeah, it's insane. If you follow him on Instagram, you'll see some videos, things that are not humanly possible.
yeah. So we've got Chris, who's got a sideline in preaching. We've got Remkus, who's got a sideline in being really strong. Jack or Rachel, do you know? Do you maybe you don't know Remkus? I don't know. It's a
I
quirk
met
running
him
the
at WordCamp London,
Nice.
whenever the last one of that was, before the pandemic.
2019, I think it was. Yeah.
That's the one, yeah. Yeah. I was there with Mal Poet and Remkus and Kim, the CEO of Mal Poet. They were talking, we was all talking, it was like a 2-hour conversation. Absolutely great guy. And yeah, incredibly tall. Like, I'm pretty tall, like I'm like 6'3", and I'm pretty large, and then Remkus just standing next to me made me look like
Yeah.
I'm tall.
Yeah. It's quite a spectacle.
Yeah.
Rachel, I don't
think
know if
I've
you know
met him.
Remkus.
I don't think I've met him. I would think I
No.
would have remembered meeting someone like
You
that.
would remember the gentle giant that is Remkus de Vries. He's going to be back on the show in like a couple of weeks' time, so we can get the lowdown and figure out how his new life is going. But it's always nice when people make a decision. I think it's really brave. I think throwing stability throwing it into the rearview mirror and going for your dreams and trying to do things for yourself, for your family is always very brave. So, joking aside, good luck, Remkus. I hope that whatever you are taking on really works out for you. So that's 2 of our 3. We've got a third one now. I think, Taco, this is totally over to you because you're going to know this person better than just about anybody, I would have thought. Tell us about this. Joost,
Yeah.
From my perspective, Joost has been moving around. He's been dotting around for the last 3 or 4 years, trying to figure out where he fits in the scenario. So he worked for I was going to say Automatic. I don't know if he did work for Automatic, but he worked for the WordPress project for a little while. And then he came back and, Marika took over at Joost and so on. And where are we at with him? It looks like he's doing a final proper farewell.
Not entirely.
Okay.
But mostly, yeah. So Joost is obviously the founder of Joost. This is highly confusing, I know. But it started out as a one-man company with just Joost de Valk, and it grew over time into the 150, 160 people company that we are now. And he's always been involved for the longest time as CEO until Marike took over as CEO. Then he was still the chief product officer. So he was still very much involved with Joost. And last year, Joost was sold to Newfold. And that gave Joost a chance to, also take a look at where am I at and what do I want to do in the future. And he decided, fairly recently, that his future is not as an employee at Joost, but as an external consultant. So we'll still get to use all of his expertise, regularly, because he'll be in quite often, but not in a employee role at Yoast anymore, which is a huge thing for him and for us.
How, forgive me for prying into the internal workings of Yoast. When you've got a founder, I mean, really, like, not only not only is the company named after him, but I mean, it really was started by him. In fact, I literally can't think of another firm whose founder is the name of the company. The whole thing is tied around him. How are you guys taking this? Is it kind of like bittersweet? You know, you're happy for him on the one hand, but like, come back, Yoast, on the other.
Well, I think that until 2015, 2016, Yoast and Yoast was pretty much the same. We had it, of course, it was already a company and we had people working at Yoast, but it was all supporting what he was doing. Since, yeah, late 2015, early 2016, there's been quite a shift already, because it was no longer sustainable to have everything built around a single person. So we've been working towards hiring people, but also educating people to take on all the different roles, and to sort of already slowly fill Joost's shoes. So it's been a process for years, and I can confidently say that we're now able to actually take over and to continue to grow Yoast the company, because we know enough about SEO. We as a company are expert in the field. We know WordPress well enough to build onto WordPress, and we'll still have him as backup.
That's nice. That's kind of like the best of all worlds, isn't it? Did you say 150 people?
Yep.
Good grief! I didn't know there was that much SEO in the whole world, let alone at one. That's
Yeah.
remarkable. All over, right? Not just in
Yes.
that office where you are.
Yeah,
just
we're
distributed all over.
roughly 100 people are local to Wiegen, where our offices are, and the rest of them is remote, so spread across the world.
Man alive, 150 people. That's huge. So there we go. I don't know if you guys over there want to share your stuff. I've never met Joost. He never came on the show. So, you know, there's that.
Have you invited him?
No. He's like one of those characters. It's like me inviting Matt Mullenweg onto the show. It's a bit like, I'm a bit scared. I don't invite Joost.
Just like with Matt, you just
Yeah.
should.
I should.
Yeah.
That'd be hysterical one day, just bringing Matt Mullenweg onto the screen with Yoast and who else? I don't know. But Chris Lemma, maybe we could do that trifecta. Well, I'm really pleased to hear that it's all very amicable. So this is the story that we've put there is if you want to register for a webinar, which is happening tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll okay, it's a bit of joking. Say our final goodbyes, which is not really final goodbyes, as I just explained, but we're going to celebrate everything that Joost did for Joost the company. And you probably wouldn't expect it, but he hates to be the center of attention. So this is going to be brilliant. And yeah, if you want to be part of it, just register, show up, and it will be so much fun.
So you can go to yoast.com/webinar. I'm guessing if you click that, you maybe get to an archive and it'll be the latest one. But it is called SEO News Webinar and Goodbye Yoast. It's happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. CEST, which is 10 a.m. EDT. So go and sign up for that. I don't know if Jack or Rachel have got anything to add to that. If not, Rachel, I'll move on to your. You've dropped a piece into the news feed just then. Should we go for that one? Let's do that one. Rachel, who's this one? I confess I don't know about this one, but we found another person. We added a fourth person. Is this Ebony Butler? Have I said that right?
Yeah, Ebony is one of the lead engineers for WordPress 5.9. So she worked on the full site editor and that whole big project with the rest of the all-female engineering team.
I have to say, you dropped me the URL, and that is the coolest homepage ever. It's
Yeah.
really subtle. If you're looking at the screen, it's like a cartoon. She's obviously had a cartoon drawn, and there's a few little things going on, like the little twinkly lights are twinkling, but you don't really notice. And the computer screen is scrolling code, and there's a cat waving its tail. That's sublimely cool. I really like that. So she's moving on. What's she doing now? Did you say?
Yeah, so she was an engineer at an agency called Yikes in Philadelphia, and she's moving on to be a lead engineer at Penske Media.
Okay, well, I confess it's not somebody that I'm acquainted with, but thank you for letting us know about that. Did you want to offer?
Yeah, you
go on,
should
go on,
invite
Taco.
her. You should invite her to the show as well, because she's
Yeah.
doing amazing stuff, and she's really an amazing software engineer.
Mhm.
I have
and
my-
also, I'd like to say in the community world, she leads the WordPress Women of Color group. It's mostly on Slack, and we have virtual hangouts every month. So if you identify as a WordPress Woman of Color, look out for her or for me and join our group.
If for some reason, Taco and Rachel, if I forget by the end of the show after we've clicked stop, will you remind me? And I'll try and see if I can figure out some details, because I would definitely like to have her on after everything that you've just said. But good luck, Ebony, in your new venture. Right. Let's move on. There's our 4 people. It was supposed to be 3, and then we snuck Ebony in at the end. Thank you for that, Rachel. That's really cool. I just want to mention a couple of things. There's no news around this. Unfortunately, this video will no longer play in my browser. But this is me just giving a bit of a hat tip to learn.wordpress.org. If you go to wordpress.org, you'll see, like, 4th menu along, you've got plugins, themes, patterns, learn. There's a whole boatload of interesting tutorials. This one caught my attention. It's about the difference between reusable blocks, block patterns, templates, and template parts. And I had various things that I wanted to show, but I can't because it won't play for reasons that I don't quite understand. But I'm just saying, if there's any bits of the project, especially the new stuff around Gutenberg and the roadmap and all of the new features coming out, make your way over here and start to consume the content. I think this is just such a fabulous project. We haven't really had anything like this. When I was trying to learn WordPress, it was like Google and cross your fingers. And the amount of time that I wasted doing all of that. Now there's dedicated tutorials written explaining everything, all the new concepts and what have you. And this was just one that I found curious. There's no real benefit to this one in particular. But like I said, if you click on learn.wordpress.org, you've got workshops, lesson plans. There's absolutely loads of stuff in there. And you can get involved yourself, as it says on the screen, and see if you can contribute. I don't know if any of you guys are into all this sort of stuff, but I just wanted to give them a bit of a shout out. So I'll open it to you 3. Interrupt as you see fit.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't ask Jack which LMS Learn is used.
Yeah. Or which SEO plugin from you either.
Yeah, well, if only a SEO plugin, but yeah, anyone would be better than what we currently have at .org.
It's just such a fabulous load of stuff, and they're being made. They're totally freely available. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing a podcast episode with Courtney Robinson later this week, and we're going to dig into what this project is all about. But free video tutorials about WordPress. What can you possibly dislike? So learn.wordpress.org. It's not new. It's not a news item, but I just wanted to mention it in case you'd never heard of it before. Right, okay, this is our WP drama piece. You've got to have a WP drama piece each and every week. This is actually the antithesis of a drama. It's like this is the fix for a drama, hopefully. I can't remember what the actual news story was, but last year, I think it was, may have been the year before, I can't really remember. There was a plugin which was bought and it was sold to somebody new, and the new owner of that plugin, I'm scratching my head trying to think what it was, and I cannot remember.
It was an image avatar plugin, right? And then it turned into a full-blown like profile builder.
Yes, that rings a bell. That I think you're right.
Tools or something, and then
Yes.
it like, just added loads of stuff people didn't want and added.
Yeah, so it started off as a really simple plugin which did one thing, and I think it was to do with avatars. I think you're right. It doesn't really matter what it was. It was just it did this one thing. It got bought, and then the new owner decided, you know what? I'm just going to totally radically change it and make it into something completely new with a load of other new features. And I think it was some sort of like membership system bolted up. It did one tiny little thing, and all of a sudden it was a full-blown membership system. And up until that point, I don't really know that this had been a bit of a problem for WordPress. Plugins kind of tend to get developed, and then once they've gone a bit stale, they sort of drop off the repository. People stop installing them. Nobody talks about them anymore. Or now that we're in this marketplace where there's a lot of value in WordPress plugins, if you've got thousands of active installs, well, there's a route to profitability. You could sell it. Of course, the idea would always be that you'd sell it and the person taking it off your hands would at least do something vaguely similar. But there's no rules around that. You can buy it off somebody and do whatever you like, it would seem. No longer is the thought. So this is a piece. It's written by Justin Tadlock. It's on WP Tab, and it's called Plugin Directory Limits Ownership and Committer Changes on Official, Featured, and Beta plugins. So basically, they're trying to put a stop to that, making it so that it says plugin owners can still manually add or remove support reps for their plugin in the directory. However, they must email the plugin review team to change ownership or commit access. In other words, there's this extra layer. You can't just sort of get it. If you want to hand it over to somebody, you need to go through this extra hoop. And although this is a bit of not a storm in a teacup, it's just unlikely to happen to you, fingers crossed. But it was something that I think needed addressing. I mean, you imagine, go on, Taco.
Yeah, it's only for featured and beta plugins.
That's the bit that I didn't get. Yeah,
very limited set of plugins that is affected by this change.
15 out of 59,000.
Yeah, so far. Is this though? Is it just that they're trying it out and they need some things to test it on? Do you think that's probably what's going on, and they just need to see how it works, or is this the limitations of it, that scope in general?
I can imagine that doing this for 59,000 plugins isn't really viable, because then the plugins team would need to manually approve every change of committer to every plugin out there. So I don't expect that we can expect this for all plugins. At the same time, it might make sense for like the plugins that have more than 2 or 3 million active installs, because they have the user base to really hurt WordPress in a single change.
Yeah, so I don't know how many featured plugins there are in total, but you're saying the number we're in the region of about 15 or something like that. And I think that's a really good point. Like Yoast, for example. I don't know what you're at now. It stops at 5 million, and you're at plus 5 million. So we've no idea what that number is, but it's a big number. Yeah, if somebody were to purchase Yoast and then start to do nefarious things and bad things on the back end, it would be good to put some sort of thing in place. I think you're right, Taco. I think it would be ridiculous to try and expect 59,000 plugins. Having said that, I don't know I have no insight or even intuition as to what the churn rate for plugin ownership or commits is. Maybe it's hundreds a day, thousands a day, in which case it's probably a complete waste of time trying to keep up with that. But if you are big and you have the capacity to hurt, should something go wrong, then yes, that sort of seems to make sense. But anyway,
to be fair, I mean, there's better ways to secure WordPress. I mean, any account that has commit access to whatever plugin should probably have some two-factor authentication at some point. So I think there's easier things that we can do to keep WordPress and WordPress accounts safe.
Yeah, I think was it Justin that wrote this, or was it? Yeah, it was Justin that wrote this. He made that point, didn't he? He said, well, I think he made that point. I have a memory of him saying something like that. But it's only 15 plugins at the moment. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if anything is stopped. But there was a problem. It was on a much smaller scale than these ones, but I guess it's a good place to start. Maybe they can work on these very, very large ones and then trickle down if they figure out some sort of automated way of doing it, or they actually discover that it's not that difficult. There's not that many changes going on. We seem to have lost Jack, or at least we've lost the picture of Jack. I don't know if Jack's still there.
Yeah.
Hello, Jack. Hello.
Well, Jack let us know in the private chat that he needs to let his wife in because she forgot her key.
That's a great excuse. I like it. I'm going to do the same in a few minutes. I'm just going to go and open the door to my wife or something like that. I'll just leave you to it. You can chat. Anything on that, Rachel? Yes. Anything on that, Rachel?
I just think that was a interesting story that you shared. That was the first time I even thought of a plugin developer taking over an old plugin and changing it like that. I've never even thought of that happening.
And it really was quite a spectacular alteration. It really was a situation where the plugin, I think, enabled you to replace the default avatar with something else, not Gravatar. So you could upload something from somewhere. I think that's literally all it did. And then on the stroke of midnight on one particular, everybody woke up and they had a membership plugin installed as well at the same time. He's back. He's answered the door. That's great. Yeah, you can't help normal life getting in the way. But thank you for letting us
Just lucky
know.
the lifts were working the other day.
Oh, yeah, well, that is. Yeah, he had to walk all the way down, all the way back up.
Yeah, 14 flights of stairs. I would come back and I'd be sweating.
We were just talking about this. I don't know if you've got anything on this one, Jack. This is the plugin ownership swap problem and how it's being addressed. Don't know how much of that you caught because, in all honesty, I didn't catch when you went. But anything to add?
I think I would just add, like, I know Collins who done this particular one,
who it was,
and he is genuinely a great guy. And I just think he made maybe a not so great decision in changing it in the manner he did. But I think we've seen ownership changes be successful before when you make users aware of what's going on and you don't completely change the whole plugin. Like, he could have done what he wanted to do as a premium plugin and just left it as the free and it'd be a nice upsell. I've brought plugins on WordPress before myself. I've done the exact same thing. Keep the free as it is, fix the stuff that's broken, introduce a premium version. And then you get the best of both worlds because you keep the current users happy and you don't annoy people and you still get a great path into an upsell.
Yeah, I think it was he quickly walked it back, didn't he, on social media and was trying to figure out where exactly what missteps he'd made along the way. And well, he at least created a problem which was fixable. And here we go. Here's a solution for it. Let's see if it trickles down.
And just to add a note that we have seen big companies do the same thing before as well. We've seen Awesome Motive a couple of times behind OptiMonster and other plugins where they've brought, what was it? They brought the Forms plugin from ThemeIsle. They brought WPSMTP, I think, and done some things there. They brought one of the SEO plugins and locked a ton of stuff. And, you know, you suddenly get an influx of 1-star reviews. So I think it's not just the people on their own that make the mistakes. Big companies can do the same mistake.
Well, because if you think about it, the reward is potentially excellent, isn't it? If you're hovering at, I don't know, let's say that you've got a plugin and it's 100,000, 50,000, 200,000. The temptation is real, right? It's not like you've totally got them. And if you can just convert 1% of a million to whatever it is that you're selling at, I don't know, $100 a year or something, you have to go through the little ethical conversation with yourself, don't you? And if it's, it's human nature sometimes I think gets the better of us. So putting these things in place is an interesting.
Seems to me he should have consulted with the product manager like Jack.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we don't want to launch into him in particular, but at least somebody is addressing it, and I think it was Mika Epstein. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe it'll trickle down in the future. Okay, that's that one. Let's move on. Let me put up the next one. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention if I don't know if you guys have heard of it before, but Ross Wintle has a fabulous Chrome extension. So you can, I think it's It might be Firefox as well. I don't know, but it's called Turbo. I'm hovering on it now, waiting for the little modal to pop up. It's called Turbo Admin for WP. Just go and Google that, and it adds a couple of things in. One of which is it adds in the ability to hide certain admin notices, so you can make some things not go away, but be visibly gone. They're still there. They're just hidden in this new section. It's a Chrome extension, so it works across all your WordPress websites without you having to install a plugin, and it's very cool. So a hat tip to Ross. I think it's $35 for Pro, and I think it's there's a free version, but I don't quite know what the free version does because I got the Pro one. Alrighty. Let's not do that one because time is running out. I was going to do this unless any of you wanted to talk about the distraction-free mode thing. I will carry on. Nobody's got any interest in that, least of all me. So let's carry on. Right, okay. let's talk about Google AMP pages. What a glorious thing this was. What a moment in history we had. Oh my goodness. Right. So I don't know if any of you are a user of Brave, the browser. I am. In fact, the screen that you're looking at now is done in the Brave browser. It's basically a Chromium fork, and they've got rid of the googly bits. So I think it phones home less, and they've got this Shields op mode. They present themselves as a less tracking browser, should we say, with all of the benefits that Chrome brings. I don't know the truth behind that. Anyway, they've taken a stand this week. According to Search Engine Journal, they've now decided that they're going to bypass Google AMP pages. And I quote, Brave browser will now redirect all AMP links to publisher URLs by default. Stop it, Search Engine Journal. I don't need the modals. And that's the long and the short of it. The article could basically end. There's nothing more to say. If you're using the Brave browser and it somehow you end up on a Google AMP page, now it's going to go, no. Can we just have the normal one instead? What was all this about? It felt to me like this was all about Google. I could be wrong. Maybe I've misjudged it, but it really did feel that it was about Google owning more of the internet. I feel, Taco, you might be the person to give us the best insight into Google. Anyway, it's gone in Brave.
Yeah, so my colleague Jono is on the AMP advisory board. So I do.
You've got to tread carefully now.
Oh yeah, so I don't know all the exact details because I think it's still quite complicated. But obviously, when seeing this news, I asked for his opinion, and let me quickly pull that up because I wish I knew everything by heart. But yeah, so this is specifically for AMP pages, which is what Google was offering as a way to make the internet faster, which was a really nice idea, but not a very good implementation, probably. But web stories are still huge.
Are they? Is that still a? Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's pushed heavily by Google, and I think that AMP email is growing enormously, or at least that's what Jono told me. So I'll just repeat what he said here.
Yeah, blame him if.
No, it's slightly on the technical side for me. But yeah, so I think that the idea behind AMP was brilliant, to have a faster internet and to strip out all the bits that you don't need and to serve things faster. But yeah, the implementation was or is interesting and has some implications that would lead to people not getting traffic to their own sites. And for some reason, site owners dislike that.
Yeah, who could have seen that coming?
Yeah. So yeah.
One of the stories which came across my radar, this is probably like 3 or 4 months ago, and I can't remember the provenance of this, where this comes from, but I have a memory that Google were deliberately massaging their search results to favor AMP pages in an attempt to make them feel more desirable. That feels like it was about 3 months ago, and it probably came off this website because it's one of the few SEO related websites that I deal with. But it just feels well. Oh, Andrew Palmer's put a nice comment in. Let me just put that up. He said AMP was an attempt to persuade publishers to advertise, in his opinion. Rob Cairns has said that personally AMP has been a waste of time. And that kind of feels like where I want to pitch my flag as well. It just felt like a big giant corporation had said, look, you've all got the internet wrong. How about we do it our way? It's quicker. Yeah, great. It's a bit quicker. I'm sure that's lovely. But at the same time, let's just pull it over into our ecosystem so that we can get all of the data from that. We can gather whatever we want from that. And in the event that it wasn't as successful as they'd hoped, they then massage the search engine results in order to make it appear more successful. I'm in such trouble with Google this week. I was going to get sued or something like that. But there you go. Jack, Rachel, you sadly, if you're using Brave, you're going to shed a tear because you're no longer going to be going to AMP pages. I doubt it.
I hate AMP with a passion.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Just on the fact of, like, every time, so, when I'm not Landash, I do consultation work. I have a couple of teams that build websites for people and stuff. And every time someone comes to us and says, oh, we want AMP, like, it's got to be AMP compatible, it's just a nightmare. Every time it's a nightmare without any hesitation. So now I say no. I just say flat no. If you want that, go somewhere else.
And well, the nice thing for you is you've now got data to show that it's not big, right? Is it, Brave? Really? But never mind. You've at least saying, oh, some browsers don't support AMP anymore.
If you say a Chromium-based browser, though, people are going to mistake you and think it's Chrome. So
I like it. So if you deliberately misuse the word Chromium, all right, okay.
But technically, it's not misused. It's true. It's Chromium.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But so they're a nightmare. You've had no positive experiences with them. My understanding is also they didn't actually make things particularly faster anyway. They just caused additional work for people like you.
They make it faster if you've got a basic blog. Like, so if people have a basic blog, they have like just written content, some images, nothing fancy, then it worked out pretty well. But as soon as people started getting involved in different things and page builders as well, you start getting involved in trying to make Divi AMP compatible. And yeah, good luck with that. I had tried once and I will never try again in my life unless you add at least 7 zeros to the end of the number in front. And yeah, so I think between everything, if you're using 2022, you're just writing, go for it. If you're trying to do anything else, then don't bother.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it. Rachel, as a website builder, do you stray into AMP, or are you like Jackie?
AMP is one of those things that I've been I've been able to stay away from. My as like when I build websites on my own, I use Elementor, and as Jack just said, it's really hard to turn Elementor site to make that AMP. What's the word? The term?
Yeah,
compatible.
Compatible, I think.
Yeah, but this is another argument to use the Brave browser, which I've just discovered maybe a month ago. I've just been hearing about it. Yeah, I've definitely been using Chrome way too much. So I kind of want to discover this new browser and all the new things that it has to offer, including this.
Just be mindful that if you use Brave, lots of things will break because their default settings are, I think it's like they don't allow third-party cookies and things like that. So you have to keep sort of toggling things off and playing, shall we say, until such times as you get it to work. I'll just put the quote up because this sort of sums it up nicely. So Brave's posture is they are more privacy focused. Again, I can't speak to that. I don't know the technology behind that. But they say AMP harms users' privacy. It's a pretty strident thing to begin with. Users' privacy, security, and internet experience. And just as bad, AMP helps Google further monopolize and control the direction of the web. So the project inside of Brave is called DAMP, and this will protect users by halting the execution of AMP HTML and sending visitors directly to publishers' web pages. So basically, if you're using Brave. I don't even think you'll notice if you've got this feature switched on. I don't know if there's a toggle for it or if it's going to be default from now on. But you probably won't even notice that anything is unusual. You just end up at the person's website, which I would imagine in most cases is more desirable anyway. So there we go. There's our bit of controversy for the first one at least anyway. And then I'm going to throw this one at you. All right. I'm on my high horse this week a little bit. I'm giving my my opinions on Google. I want to know what your opinions on Web 3.0, Web 3, whichever acronym is correct. I can't remember. The more and more that I find about Web 3.0, the less likely I am to be interested in it. Back in the day when Bitcoin was starting, I thought, oh, this is curious. This is really interesting. I quite like the idea of this. And now I kind of, everywhere I look, I see things which feel to me like pyramid schemes. I see sort of NFTs and people getting involved in all of that. And I personally can't make any sense of any of it. And so it would seem, do some other people, because this is a great website. It's called web3isgoinggreat.com. And it's just a list, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on and literally on and on of things where it borders on, sometimes it borders on, criminality. People have hacked a blockchain and they've managed to siphon out loads of money. And then there's other things, I don't know, people promoting crypto. Exchanges like Binance gave Putin regime information on users who donated to opposition leader Alex Navalny. I don't know if that's true or not, but the point is this website is full of the skepticism that I really, really like. I don't know how well any of you guys follow Web3, but I'm going to open it up. I am staying away from all this. I like my web just normal. I don't want any of this stuff in my web. Go away, Web3. What do you think? Am I being a bit of a Luddite?
I love websites like this that poke holes in the big Web3 argument and show how, I guess, the execution of Web3 ideas isn't executed well. Because it shows us all the holes that we need to fix and all the problems that we need to solve moving forward. Because Web3, I still am on board with the idea of decentralized apps, decentralized organizations, and blockchain being used all over the place. I'm still on board with that idea. But this site is correct. There's a lot of horrible things going wrong, and there's a lot of misinterpretation and scams. So it's, the more of that stuff gets we shine a light on, the sooner we can address it and fix it and work towards like a better Web3.
Isn't that the point? You say the word scams, and I feel that so many people are getting caught up in things that I think it's really, really, really difficult to understand the technology underlying all this sort of stuff. And it's, just go and buy something. It'll be fine. Protect it. No, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, it's gone. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Clearly that wasn't as protected as we thought. It was I'm just going to put this one up. I was going to put it in next week because it only came on my radar earlier today, but I'm going to put it up now. It's on The Verge. Did you see this? There's a platform called Beanstalk. It's a cryptocurrency project, and they lost $182 million in 14, I think it was, seconds the other day because their rules were not broken. They've set up the system where they will lend you cryptocurrency. So this guy borrowed $1 billion in cryptocurrency, which gave him 51% of the compute power on the network. So then he decided to pay himself $182 million, paid back the $1 billion, and in the space of 14 seconds made himself $80 million richer. Genius.
Wow.
18 or 182 million.
He borrowed $1 billion for 14 seconds. He stole 82 million, but the debt on the billion that he borrowed in that 14 seconds is the difference between the 180 and the 80 million. And it's all legit. There's nobody did anything wrong.
Why just we didn't think of that first?
I know, right? So there's that bit, there's that part of the puzzle, but it's just stuff like this. How can this happen? If you went into a bank and somebody had I mean, you have to do it at gunpoint. They're a criminal. They've broken the law. Maybe this guy will turn out to be a criminal, but they'll never find him. That's the point. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, good luck walking into your average bank and even at gunpoint get that amount of money.
Just even getting to the counter with some sort of, it's just. But I guess my problem with all of this is that it's being promoted as if it's legit. It's all been thought through. Don't worry about it. Bring us your money. Bring us your NFTs. Bring us and it just feels like a house of cards. Increasingly, it feels like a house of cards. And I follow the internet pretty closely. I have no idea really how that happened. It's a good story, but that should not be allowed to happen. And yet, apparently, it did. So this whole Web3 thing, obviously, Rachel, you're on the somewhat suspicious side, but not quite as suspicious maybe as me.
Yeah,
what about
a
you?
lot of improvements need to be made.
Yeah. What about you, Jack? Do you want everything decentralized? Do you want everything like that? Or are you happy with your HSBC bank account? Tried and trusted, bricks and mortar. That's what we want.
No, I like the technology, but what I've never understood with cryptocurrency is everyone wants to buy crypto now to make a profit, and yet everyone doesn't want it to be the same as cash. Everyone says the bankers shouldn't control it, yet they're doing the exact same thing the bankers do in controlling the price and converting cryptocurrency for cash. If you're really into the technology, you don't buy cryptocurrency to turn $1,000 into 10,000. You buy it to be the future of decentralized money. And no one follows it in that path anymore. So now it's just another big Wall Street hedge fund, like absolute load of crap, basically. Can we say that on the podcast?
No, it's fine. Yeah, it really does feel to me as if the people who are promoting it very, very heavily at the moment are the people who have a great deal of interest in it working and being successful. And whilst I think the technology is fabulous, the blockchain is a really interesting and beautiful idea. Like, it's beautiful, but I don't think we've got the chops yet to figure out that our assets are protected. If we go and use I don't know, some sort of repository for Bitcoin, the only way that I can see that being secure is to sort of have it on a USB stick, which is air gapped and buried in a bunker under 6 inches of concrete. Otherwise, it's totally up for grabs, it would seem. And I don't want quite yet to live in that world, especially for people like, I don't know, people like my parents who wouldn't want to get involved in any of that. They're not interested. And I know it's not for everybody, but I do wish that maybe the rhetoric around it would be toned down a little bit. And yes, anyway, I'm going to rename this podcast the Luddites Podcast for people with tinfoil hats. Anyway, Taco, what's your thought on this? Maybe you've got an alternative opinion.
Well, not really. I mean, I love a good discussion, but no, I think that especially when it comes to cryptocurrency, I still fail to see its use. Back in the day when Bitcoin was just starting, you were able to mine several Bitcoins a day. And I know a friend of mine did, and he put them on a USB stick on a flash drive somewhere. And after moving 3 or 4 times, he misplaced that thing that it's still supposed to have about 30 Bitcoin on it, because that was what he could do in a single day back then. Another friend of mine once bought his chips worth 3 Bitcoin. At the time, that was about €7.5. That would be different today. So the whole Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, I don't understand. I do think that for the blockchain, I mean, that's the underlying technology. There can be useful applications. And the only one I've seen in reality so far, and that I really dove into, is called WordProof.
Yes, brilliant, great example.
That's oh, and I think Robert has a nice comment.
The famous tech podcaster Leo Laporte
Yeah,
has lost his password to his wallet. Yeah, and so has his friend Steve Gibson, who mined 50 bitcoins back in the day. I actually bought a bitcoin. I bought a bitcoin for $27, and I bought a year's worth of VPN with it.
yeah,
It's now worth, as of this moment, $38,000. That was the most expensive year of VPN I've ever bought. If I just not bought it, if I just lazily not bothered that day, I could have had it. Yeah, you're right though. Did you hear the story about the guy in the UK who got in like basically on day one, and he mined 7,500 Bitcoin? Count that number. So, in fact, I'm going to go to the Preve website and work out today what that is worth because it's so jaw-droppingly horrific. Okay, so here we go. At today's rates, this chap, 7,500, he's worth $290 million, which is not to be sniffed at. He lost interest because it was a non-thing. Nobody was really going on about it. 7,500, and he sent the hard disk to the trash with lots of other things. And then he employed people once he'd worked out it was worth so much money to go through the landfill site to try and retrieve the hard disk. Needless to say, he never found it. But yeah, I don't know. It all just seems your WordProof example was genius. That was Sebastian, wasn't it?
yeah.
Wasn't there a Yoast WordProof thing? Did you guys?
There's a connection. We're working with them to build an integration, and also Joost de Valk is one of the investors in.
Okay. Yeah, you see, that strikes me as a really, like, there's nobody losing out there. All you're doing is saying, here's a piece of content that I made. Let's stick it on a blockchain so that we can verifiably say, no, that was the original one. That was the first one. Back away. And it strikes me that, legal firms or insurance companies or banks themselves could use it in that way. And I just don't know. I'm not yet ready to let me be the expert in everything. I want expert. I'm quite happy to pay money to banks so that they can look after my money for me because they're far better at doing it than I am. Like I said,
and I really like that my bank has a password reset that allows me access to my account again.
Yeah. Not, I drove over my USB stick. It's in bits on the ground. Can I have a reset, please? Well, not unless you've remembered the log file. Anyway, there you go. That was interesting. Final drama of this week. Sorry, everybody. We've gone right off WordPress, but it's fun. I started reading this book, and I'm going to recommend it. It's called Stolen Focus, and I'm going to open up a conversation. We've only got about 5 minutes, so we'll see where this goes. This is it's by a guy called Johan Hari, and it's all about the whole book. I'm about halfway through it, so I can't speak as to where it goes. And it's about how, as a civilization, not the entire human species basically who's got a mobile phone, how we are losing our focus, how we have this inability to do things which take more than a few seconds. And the easy answer is one word, and it's either the word phone or Facebook, depending. But I was reading through this, and at the minute, he's not presented any solutions. He's just going through the psychology, the science, the MIT researchers who've carried out studies on how it affects sleep and all of that. And I am guilty as charged. I have been trying to address this, and I am succeeding to some extent. And I want to know how you guys are coping. Do you find yourself like doing, basically this? You've seen,
Mm-hmm.
doing this a lot, and then realizing that an hour and a half has gone by, and you've that bit of that DIY that needed doing, or that laundry that needed sorting out. It's this. Honestly, there was so much that I got out of this hour and a half. It was brilliant. I found one thing about guinea pigs. It was great. You know what I'm saying? and so he's trying to explain why we do it, what the psychology is of that addiction, and hopefully armed with that, I will be glorious next week, and I will be free. Is this you? Do you have this problem, or is it? am I one of the only people who he's going to sell this book to?
I definitely had this problem a little worse in college, but I started, I guess, giving myself more strict screen time rules. Just, close the laptop, put the phone away, just be a person without tech for a while.
Yeah.
And I've definitely noticed in my generation and younger generations that everyone thinks that they might have ADD. And a lot of people do, and a lot of people are getting ADHD type symptoms from using smartphones and social media too often, and it's hard to even get a proper diagnosis. But yeah, I think a good solution is a cap on screen time.
Yeah. He makes the point that on average, a typical, so he's talking about Americans. I guess the same would be true for Europeans and I imagine other places in the world. You touch your phone about 2.2 thousand times a day, which seems ridiculous, but I bet the data is pretty solid. Obviously, there's an aggregate. There's going to be people who are doing it much more and people who are doing it much less. But man alive, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think my phone keeps track of screen time, and I'm kind of afraid to look at it right now.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Does it beautifully. That's the perfect analogy.
The only thing, I mean, it's one of the main reasons why I decided not yet to get a smartwatch, because I think those are even worse, because it's so much easier to just have a quick look at your wrist
Yeah.
and get that distraction and see what's going on. Whereas taking your phone out is something that I can't subtly do while in a conversation.
Just to give you some more context, so the 2.2k thousand touches a day is quite interesting. But apparently, if you are fully in the zone on something, and I'm sure Jack, as somebody that writes code, you can probably attest to this, whether or not this number feels true or not. Apparently, a quick glance at an email that you might not even read, you just take your attention away. Apparently, it fully takes 23 minutes on average to get back into the flow state that you were in before. Jack, is that nonsense? I don't know.
I honestly can't answer that because every device I have is in distraction-free mode.
Good
My
for you.
MacBook is permanently in distraction-free mode. I have no notifications. Every notification is disabled on my phone. My MacBook, I don't have any notification. I look at Slack when I want it. I don't have the little icon to show you how many messages. Nothing.
How are you still alive?
This is the problem, right? We've totally got to the point where we believe it's like intravenous, right? If we're not plugged in all the time, then there's something wrong. But I think, Jack, you're onto something there. I've switched all the notifications off. It honestly took me about a week to get used to that. I would be picking things up, expecting to see things. There isn't. And this may not interest you. I've downloaded this is my home screen on my phone now, and it has a collection of text links and nothing else. And it's I can't remember what it's called. It's a launcher for Android. And so I've got like podcast app, music app, but there's nothing there to distract me. And they're the only apps I'm allowed. Basically, I want a podcast thing with a phone on it and music, and that's all I want from my phone. But it's a fascinating book and highly, highly recommended. It's called Stolen Focus: Why You Can't Pay Attention. And I got to about the third page, honestly, and gave up, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. Ta-da! See what I did there?
Lost focus. I like it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. It's a dad joke. It was from the almanac of dad jokes, which I will be writing during the next pandemic. Right, that's it. That's all I've got time for, unless you guys have got something you wanted to throw in that I've missed.
Yeah.
Go
Wait.
ahead, Rachel.
Okay. I recently published a blog post
I
at
have it.
our blog. So I work for Digital Cube. We make Shifter, and Shifter is our main blog. So on this blog, I've finally published the announcement for our residency program. So we are starting an internet art residency program where we'll invite artists to propose a project idea for us to work on collaboratively. So an artist will come into Digital Cube and work with our team to execute their project idea. And while they're with us, there'll be other opportunities for education and cultural exchange. So the artist really feels like they're adding value while they're a part
So,
of our team.
so this is artists like canvas paint, not digital artists. Like that's what.
Yes, so the program will be
Cool.
to create internet art. And internet art is, we see art around the internet all the time, so sometimes it's hard to pick out what's exactly internet art and what's digital art or other kinds of art. But internet art is art that uses the internet as a medium. So if the website itself is the artwork.
Okay, this is fabulous. Can I add this in for next week as well?
Of course. I'd love to
I'm
promote
going to
it more.
quickly stick it in as a caption if I can. There we go. Add that.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's the URL.
Yeah. So
It's
any type of artist can apply, but the program will be to execute an internet art project.
getshifted.io. Sorry, Rachel, I apologize. I keep talking over you. You finish.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, just to address your question, like you could be a painter, you can be a comedian, you can be a digital artist. But to get into the program, you have to propose an internet art idea. So then we'll execute it together.
So intriguing. Right, I'm going to scroll right to the bottom. Here's what you need to do. You need to submit the following in a proposal: a short description of your project idea, a short bio, links to help us learn more about who you are as an artist, such as website, recent work, social media pages, press releases, etc. And your answer to the question, why should we work with you? This is brilliant. I'm going to start drawing as we speak. I'm going to draw a square and submit it. Here we go. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to put that into next week's and we'll talk about it on next week's show because that's totally got me interested. That's really, really cool. Thank you, Rachel. That's brilliant. Taco or Jack, did we miss anything from you guys?
There's one more thing that I think deserves a bit of attention because it was announced this week. And yes, this is definitely it.
Let me take that
because,
one.
Yeah, I think as a WordPress community, we've been talking about supporting underrepresented groups a lot. I know, Rachel, you're involved with the WP Women of Color. And I think that we have a lot of underrepresented groups that we should help step up, should help to speak at our events. And WordCamp US is doing exactly this.
It says to improve diverse representation at WordCamp US, our programming team has looked into the barriers that hold different groups back, the largest of which is the cost of hotel and airfare or travel. The idea is that we can't cover these costs, but we can set up connecting points between these speakers and companies that would like to support them. These companies would be responsible for creating their own set of qualifications, managing any transfer of funds, and working directly with the speakers. And so on. I've got the URL on the screen, but it's if you're just listening to us on the audio, it's us.wordcamp.org/2022, and then all hyphenated, support underrepresented speakers at WordCamp US. And I'm pretty sure that next time Michelle is on, she'll be wanting to talk about that. Thank you, Taco.
Yeah, just I mean, I know that a lot of agency owners and a lot of people from all the WordPress companies are listening every week to WP Builds. So this is calling upon them to join this program and to help fund underrepresented speakers.
Thank you. Yeah, that's well worth it. I'm going to add that into next week's show notes as well because I missed that one, and I appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed. Yeah. So we're out of time. Just to say that Michelle, who will probably be championing that page, I would have thought she said in regards to mobile phones, is it considered one touch if you have it in your hand all day long? She's asking for a friend. I don't know, Michelle. I think you can class that as one. We'll give you a pass on that. That's fine. You've got no problem. Okay, right. Here comes the humiliating bit. Sorry, Jack. Sorry, Taco. Sorry, Rachel. We have to do the wave. Every week we have to do this thing so that I can use it as album art. So position yourself in the screen. Give us a wave. Give us a wave. Oh, look, everybody's being so obedient and biddable. Thank you. That's it. We've done it. Thank you very much to Jack. Thank you very much to Taco. Thank you very much to Rachel. I appreciate you joining us this week. And hopefully we'll have you all back on at some point. Bye-bye for now.